Erik Berg, president of the BTU, thank you so much for joining us today at BNN to talk about the contract that is in limbo right now. What are the main issues that BTU is fighting for in this new contract?
So we're fighting for a number of issues, but chief among them is to ensure that students with disabilities in Boston Public Schools receive their specialized instruction according to their IEPs from an additional educator, not the same classroom teacher. Boston is unique in Massachusetts in requiring a single teacher, like a classroom third grade teacher or at the high school level an English teacher, to both be the general education teacher and the special education teacher. They're required to get an additional license, and the students in those classes are then deprived of the services, the support services of an additional teacher that their IEP, their individualized education program, requires them to get. So we're seeking that those services are provided by an additional educator. We fully support the inclusion of kids with disabilities in the general ed classroom, but it needs to be done right. It needs to be done in a way that is sustainable for educators and meets the needs of students. So that's issue number one. Issue number two is a wage increase. We have paraprofessionals in the city of Boston, in our schools, working hard on behalf of our kids, making less than $29,000 a year, making just under, $30,000 a year. And you can't live in the city of Boston in any reasonable way for $30,000 a year. So we're seeking a wage increase that keeps up with the rising cost of living in Boston for all of our educators, in particular our lowest paid educators, our paraprofessionals.
Absolutely, and to speak a little bit about the special education part that you just talked about, what sort of issues does that cause in class when there's only one teacher to teach kids of a variety of needs?
So what it causes, frankly, is kids' learning needs and their social emotional needs and a lot of other needs aren't being met adequately. It causes not only those students to lose out, but all the students in the class to lose out on the teacher's time and expertise when they don't have an additional person, which is what kids in every other district in the state have.
Absolutely. And so what is holding up this agreement with the city? Who's pushing back on this?
Well, we've made reasonable proposals. We've been bargaining since February of 2024, almost a year now. We've had 29 negotiating sessions. We've made reasonable proposals to resolve some of these things, and the city has failed to respond in an adequate way.
And your last contract expired on August 31st
Yes.
of this past year. How has that affected teachers in schools?
Sure, yeah. I mean, it's morale is low. People are frustrated. Teachers, paras, social workers, librarians, all the folks we represent are angry. Some are leaving to other school districts because the working conditions are not sustainable. Wages have not kept pace with either inflation or with the surrounding communities. We've seen communities around us get raises of 10, 20% over 3 years, and paras even more. And it's crushing morale. It's contributing to a increased workload. Kids aren't getting their needs met, most important. And it's time that we really come together and reach an agreement on this.
And, I know that earlier this week we were talking about off camera, the mayor and the superintendent announced 4 school closures and 2 school mergers that will take effect in the next year. How will this affect students and teachers?
So the announcement was for 4 school closures, as you said, effective September 2026, and 2 schools being merged into one. I think the closures are always disruptive to school communities. They're not helpful to students, they're disruptive to staff and to families. And the union is seeking and has been advocating for a long time for more new school buildings built in the city of Boston that meet the needs of kids in the 21st century. We have had a few more schools come online in the last 3 years, and that's a good thing, but we need many more, like 2 or 3 every year going forward. We have 116 buildings in the city of Boston, and we've only built 6 new buildings in the last 20 years.
Wow.
And we need more new buildings. So we believe that schools shouldn't be closed unless and until there's a better space, adequate facility for students to be moved to.
And talking about new schools and new facilities, things need to be updated as well. I know that a lot of Boston schools are not kept up as well, and they need more better ACs and better things like this. Is this stuff that you're prioritizing as well?
Absolutely, 100%. We need more new schools. We need more fully renovated schools. We need better ventilated schools. We need schools with the kinds of learning spaces that kids need in 2025. Many of our schools were built 100 or more years ago, when there are classrooms with lots of natural light, nice tall ceilings, but there are not spaces for the occupational therapist, for the social worker, for the guidance counselor, for the library, for some of the things that we have and expect from schools today, a server room, a maker space,
right,
that weren't around 100 years ago. And we need to either build new schools and completely renovate some of our old buildings, which might have good solid structures but need to be updated.
Right. And going back to the negotiation, what will be the result if you can't reach a fair deal?
Well, the result is going to be schools that continue to not be at their best for our students, teachers and other educators who are demoralized and end up leaving the system.
And, is there anything that parents in the community can do to help support our BTU teachers?
Absolutely.
And educators?
On our website, people can go to www.btu.org/engage, btu.org/engage, and they can learn more about our contract demands. We've been fully transparent in our bargaining. They're open to all members, so people know what we're asking for, and they can sign on to support us and send an email to the mayor and the superintendent asking Mayor Wu and Superintendent Skipper to direct their teams to come to the table, address our reasonable proposals, and settle this contract.